Good afternoon. Welcome. My name is Jason New. I'm the Division Director with the Marketing and Development Division of the New Mexico Department of Agriculture. And joining me today is Felicia Frost, Lead Manager, Marketing and Sales. Also, I'd like to give recognition to Kendall Chavez with Governor Lujan Grisham's office, as well as Aaron Ortegoza with the New Mexico Economic Development Division. We'll talk a little bit more about our partnerships in this discussion today. Recently, we sent out a survey to solicit input, and that's what we're talking about today is the Resilience Food Systems Infrastructure Program, or RFSI, and establishing our state level funding priorities. At the end of this presentation, there will be an email address, so please send any additional feedback regarding funding priorities via email by September 8th. So what is RFSI? RFSI is a cooperative agreement with USDA Agricultural Marketing Service. NMDA has entered into a cooperative agreement with USDA AMS for the next 4 years. NMDA will serve as the administrator and will also help conduct technical assistance and supply chain coordination with the help of a partner agency, the New Mexico Economic Development Division. The purpose of the RFSI program is to benefit consumers, producers, and rural communities by providing more options, increasing access, and creating new, more, and better markets for small and mid-sized producers. Its intent is to address gaps left by other existing federal programs. RFSI will serve middle of the supply chain needs for locally and regionally produced food products, excluding meat and poultry. Again, the purpose of the RFSI program is to build resilience in the middle of the supply chain. You may ask, what is the middle of the supply chain? Simply defined, that would be when the product is harvested from the farm gate, from the farm field, to the back of the restaurant, to the farmer's market, to the grocery store. The goal of the program is to keep profits circulating in rural communities and increase diversity in processing options in terms and business model approaches, geography, availability to underserved communities. The direct recipients of the U.S. Department of Ag RFSI's funding will be the agency, commission, or department responsible for agriculture within the 50 states. States will work in partnership with USDA to make competitive subawards to support infrastructure in the middle of the supply chain for domestic food and farm businesses and other eligible entities. States may use a limited portion of the funds to develop and/or strengthen supply chain coordination and targeted marketing development services for local and regional products. Just as RFSI is a component of USDA's framework for transforming the food system, RFSI at the state level here in New Mexico will now be included as part of the governor's food initiative framework.
Now on to eligible commodities. Eligible commodities include specialty crops, dairy, grain only for human food consumption, aquaculture, and other food products excluding meat and poultry, as we mentioned. And aside from meat and poultry, other ineligible products include wild-caught seafood, exclusively animal feed and forage products, fiber, landscaping products, tobacco, or dietary supplements. Eligible applicants, this includes agricultural producers or processors and groups of producers and processors, nonprofit organizations operating middle of the supply chain activities, local government entities, again, operating middle of the supply chain activities, tribal governments, and institutions such as schools, universities, or hospitals bringing producers together to establish cooperative or shared infrastructure or investment in equipment that will benefit multiple producers within the middle of the supply chain. And again, middle of the supply chain includes anything that is post-harvest to the back of the retail store, restaurant, farmer's market, whatever it may be. And those activities includes things such as processing, aggregation, and distribution of targeted agricultural products. Now, all applicant businesses and organizations must be domestically owned, and applicant facilities must be physically located within the 50 states. Moving on to funding and duration. New Mexico is expecting to receive approximately $4.6 million, and that allocation is determined by a formula. And then after costs for administration, technical assistance, and supply chain coordination activities, and we'll be going into those activities later on in the presentation, we will have approximately 3.6 million available for a competitive solicitation to award to projects that maintain and improve food and agricultural supply chain resiliency. And these projects will begin fall of 2024 and must end by spring of 2027. Moving on, the minimum project amount for competitive infrastructure grants is $100,000 and the maximum is $3 million. These total project amounts include the combination of federal funds and the match, and that match requirement is typically 50% unless the applicant or the recipient is a historically underserved farmer or rancher, an SBA qualified small disadvantaged business, a woman-owned small business, or a veteran-owned small business. And all of these groups are eligible for a reduced match of 25% of project costs. And you can find definitions of all of these groups within the program scope and requirements. And we'll provide a link to the USDA's website where this information can be found. And then in future presentations, when we start doing our outreach for actual projects, potential projects, we will review things like indirect costs, program income, allowable and unallowable expenses, things like that. We'll go over in more detail and have some dialogue on those. And with that, I'll pass it off to Jason.
Thanks, Felicia. Defined eligible projects include expanding processing capacities, including adding product types, increasing production volumes, and supporting new wholesale retail product lines, modernizing equipment or facilities through upgrades, repairs, or retooling, purchase and installation of specialized equipment, such as processing components, sorting equipment, packing and labeling equipment, and or delivery vehicles, modernizing manufacturing, tracking, storage, and information technology systems, enhancing worker safety through adoption of new technologies, or investment in equipment or facility improvements, construction of a new facility, increasing packaging and labeling capacities that meet compliance requirements under applicable laws, increasing storage space, including cold storage, develop, customize, or install climate smart equipment that reduces greenhouse gas emissions, increases efficiency in water use, improves air and or water quality, and or meets one or more of USDA's climate action goals. Modernize equipment or facilities to ensure food safety, including associated hazard analysis and critical control points or HACCP, consultations, plan development, and employee training, and training on the use of all equipment purchased under the grant and associated new processes. Define ineligible activities and tasks. Hiring term limited personnel to assist with project implementation activities, purchasing special purpose equipment, analyzing potential facility upgrades and changes that meet regulatory requirements, obtaining design and or architectural services, etc., planning for HACCP or other food safety or worker safety measures or equipment recommendations, and upgrades or new facilities for processing specific agricultural products such as on-farm post-harvest processing, preservation and cold storage, post-harvest cleaning and grading, aggregator warehouse and storage, including cooperatives, purchase of freezer equipment, freezers or cold storage, processing, canning, preserving, and pasteurization, preparation and packing, drying, hulling, shelling, and milling, and cooking, baking, juicing, distilling, and fermenting. Broad state level funding priorities detailed in our initial state plan to USDA include invest in local producers' ability to support New Mexico's food system, build capacity of New Mexico's supply chain, increase opportunities for more value-added products to diversify offerings and extend availability, implement sustainable agricultural practices and climate-smart technologies to keep agricultural and business in New Mexico and bring food closer to where it is ultimately consumed, provide hunger relief efforts for food insecure New Mexicans. The final funding priorities will be included in our upcoming request for proposals. Alicia?
Yeah, thank you. Moving on to survey results, we had 630 survey visits, and we had 62 total responses, complete responses to that survey. And in terms of the USDA defined project activities that we mentioned earlier, this is the ranking by all the survey participants. So, and I won't read all of these, I'll read the top three. The one that ranked first was expand capacity for processing, aggregation, and distribution of agricultural products to create more and better markets for producers. Modernize or expand an existing facility. And then third was develop, customize, or install equipment that reduces greenhouse gas emissions, increases efficiency in water use, improves air and or water quality, and or meets one or more of USDA's climate action goals. Now, this next slide, the suggested other food system activities. These bullet points are in response to an open-ended question that we had on the survey. And we haven't included all the responses that we received. Instead, we included the ones that relate most to the middle of the supply chain and the eligible agricultural products and project types. And so those suggestions included regional transportation and cold storage, coordinated efforts specifically, rapid food safety tracking, more regional food aggregation and distribution, rentable spaces for production of commercial foods, and increased support for niche product development opportunities and wholesale food service products. Now on to the defined potential marketing channels. And again, these came from USDA, but this is the ranking according to our survey. So survey participants ranked retailers as first priority, then intermediaries, then market channels or mechanisms intended to respond to food access challenges in the state, and that followed by institutions. And as a reminder, middle of the supply chain activities may not include all of these market channels. So for examples, retailers can definitely benefit from this program and these funding, but retail activities are not included in the middle of the supply chain. So it can be anything, again, from the farm gate after or post-harvest rather, up to the back of the retail store. Jason?
Thanks, Felicia. On to technical assistance and supply chain coordination. These categories are defined by USDA. However, NMDA and the New Mexico Economic Development Division have worked together to determine some initial ways that the two agencies can come together to support and expand the middle of the supply chain in our state. Under supply chain needs and opportunities, engage regional representatives of the New Mexico Economic Development Department for RFSI outreach, messaging, and project recommendations based on existing projects. Identify priorities for strategic mid-value chain investment through existing food and agricultural initiatives and network recommendations. Facilitate collaborative discussion and shared understanding amongst food value chain stakeholders. Under planning support, develop an action-oriented framework to systemically leverage selected projects. Incorporate access to climate-smart technologies and practices to further food and agricultural sector resiliency and economic viability for the middle of the value chain operations. And develop cross-sector economic development opportunities for strategic value chain development, i.e. leverage and incentivize New Mexico manufacturing companies to fill supply chain gaps for food and ag sector equipment, refrigerated fleet, and infrastructure, etc. Under business assistance support, to develop, monitor, and evaluate a suite of tools and technical assistance services designed specifically for food and ag entrepreneurs in association with infrastructure grant project implementation to leverage existing financing tools through the New Mexico Economic Development Department where possible, and build out financing tools to fill access gaps in existing tools. To seek additional and diversified funding streams and compile data and reporting on economic impact of the program. As requested in their survey for other technical assistance, that includes unified open source supply chain logistics management system, connecting growers with food processors and manufacturers, developing co-op programs, assisting applicants and recipients in navigating regulations, conducting assessments, and provide resources for new technology, including solar, climate smart, and water smart, etc. Front-end evaluation of wholesale food products desired by institutional buyers, farm-to-home delivery systems, including resource and support, statewide platform for connecting and networking, support in finding, applying for, and managing grants, support and provide guidance to localities in developing or revising local LEDA ordinances, risk analysis education for food and ag entrepreneurs, training to manufacturers, producers, and others who want to develop or expand food and agriculture. I want to note that this list is not all inclusive of all of the responses received. The listed ones that are provided above are the most applicable to the middle of the supply chain and are eligible agricultural products and product types. Alicia?
Thank you, Jason. So we will review the timeline now, starting with July and August. So we sent out the survey and we're conducting this Zoom to finalize our state funding priorities. And then in the months of September and October, we will release our request for proposals that'll include those state funding priorities. And we'll also hold a series of outreach Zooms or virtual meetings to conduct that outreach and have just one-on-one dialogue with potential applicants to discuss potential projects. And then moving on into October and November, we will continue to work with potential applicants on developing their proposals for any shovel-ready projects, and then we'll provide some technical assistance when able to. And then moving on to December and January. Tentatively, we have set our deadline for December 31st. So this would be when proposals are due to NMDA. And then in January, most likely, our evaluation committee will meet to review proposals and make funding recommendations to the New Mexico Secretary of Agriculture. And then after those funding recommendations have been determined, then we will respond to all of the applicants to let them know if they'll be moving on to the next phase of the process. And if they are, we will work with those individuals during the months of February and March to work to finalize their proposals and provide, of course, additional technical assistance. And we'll compile the state plan and the full application packet. And what a state plan is all of the project proposals combined in addition to some other information that's required within our application packet. And then we will submit the draft application packet, including the state plan, to NMSU sometime in April for later submission to USDA before their May 19th deadline. And then once we have an approved state plan and application, that lays the groundwork for future subawards. So NMDA and NMSU will then create subawards with all the final recipients of the RFSI grant. If you have additional public comment on our state level funding priorities, we ask you to email them and questions to rfsi@nmda.nmsu.edu. And we'll leave this slide up so you can jot that email address down again if you'd like, but I'll repeat it. It's rfsi@nmda.nmsu.edu. And the deadline again is September 8th. And you can also visit the USDA RFSI website to learn more on the specifics of this new grant opportunity. And we will be posting this recording on our Taste of Tradition YouTube page, as well as linking it to our elevatenmag.com website under funding opportunities, and then you click on RFSI. And before we close here, I just wanted to mention again that we'll have our next round of Zoom sessions to discuss potential projects in October. And we will be sending out information on those and on that series of Zoom presentations and workshops within a press release, within all of our social media platforms. You'll also be able to find that press release on our main NMDA website, and you'll find more information again on our elevatenmag.com website under funding opportunities and then RFSI. So that concludes today's presentation. And we just want to thank you, and we look forward to receiving any additional information or comments that you have on our state funding priorities. Thank you and have a great day.
Thank you.